Okay, so I've got this little short pulled up for a reason, so we'll check it out and then I'll tell you what I'm getting at here. Fake friend versus real friend.
I got you.
And there's a huge amount of truth to that, especially with guys. I've got friends of mine that if they weren't fucking with you, you would think that's how you show you care, basically. I've known people who come into a friend group, maybe we knew them in high school or whatever, but we blister each other so bad that they come into the conversation and people start blistering them because they're a friend, and they're like, well, I just don't know why you talk to me that way. And they don't get it at all. And you know, we were talking about some different friends. Now, I've known plenty of people by this name, but I want to tell you a story about Jason. Jason, when I first met him, worked, I don't know in what capacity, but I'm assuming the word is roadie. If not, I apologize, for a major rock band. If 5 million people out there were listening and you mentioned either one of the two names of the bands that he was on tour with, almost every one of them would know who the band was. Even if they don't listen to the music, they would have heard the band. You know, after living on the road for a while, he decides to come in town, and he comes back to the nightclub that I work at. And we get together and we think, okay, you know, there's 7 or 8 employees here. And I said, look, why don't we go to the boss man, because you know how to DJ, you know how to work the bar, I know how to work the bar, I know how to DJ, we know how to do everything in here. We don't need 5 people to do it. Now he's a pretty big guy. I have no idea how tall he is. I'm about 5'10", 5'10 and a half. I'm assuming he's 6'2 to 6'4". Big guy, strong guy. And if anybody needed bouncing from the club, then he would bounce them, no problem. The only problem I had is I would go and I would say, hey man, look, you know, the only thing that worries me is you get very, very out of hand. Now, he gives them every opportunity to leave, but then when they don't, a switch gets hit, and he's going to make it very clear, you're leaving now or it's going to be trouble. One night he was kicking a guy out, and he was standing there telling me I had to leave. He wouldn't leave. The guy's cousin got over there to the side, and he was like, hey man, I'll get him out of here, you know, don't worry. But the cousin somehow got in the middle accidentally. So then he picked them both up and walked them out and tossed them at the front door, saloon door style or whatever, which is much worse if you don't have a saloon door, trust me. But a lot of times it would be a situation where he would square off with them, and because I am worried, even though he never did, I was always worried you're going to take it too far, you're going to hurt somebody, we're going to get sued or whatever. So whenever there was a fight, whoever the bad guy was would always be behind me, because I'd be up on his chest like this, you know, which I'm sure scared the hell out of them too. And what the hell? This guy's on his side and he's trying to stop him. You know? And I would always say, would you please quit doing that so I don't have to turn my back to him and everything. And he never did. He still slammed his wooden bat or whatever he had back there on the cooler. There were dents all in the cooler every time he kicked somebody out. By the time he slammed that, they were pretty much pissing themselves ready to leave, but sometimes they went further. So yeah, we approached the owner. The owner was from New York. He talked just like this. No matter what he said, it came out like some kind of dastardly criminal. But he was all talk for the most part, you know. Not even saying that bad guy, was a pretty good dude, but just different, you know. And so he's also known as being very cheap. So when we show him how we can control this, we can do this, and if you pay us this much, which would be a raise for us, then you don't need all these other people, and then you're paying us more, but you're actually saving money. Jumped all over it, great idea. We did it for I don't know, a year or so. And then one night we had closed down, and I don't know, we were back in the back with a girl from another club and a couple of our girls, and we were having a beer or whatever. It wasn't no big deal. And as a joke, I went back there and I said, "Hey man, Boss Man's outside, man. He knows we're back here." And they all walk out there, and of course Boss Man's not out there. I was just messing with them, because you mess with friends. And for some reason, 15 minutes later, I come through there, and this time I actually see a cigarette burning in the darkness. I'm like, fuck, he actually is here. So I walked around there, and I stood there for a second, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I guess something we're not supposed to." Now, this same owner had been in the same room with the same girl from the other club, even though he's married and we weren't, doing the exact same thing, but he decided he was going to dock our pay $50, and that would be fine if you were going to do it once, but he decided in perpetuity we were going to make $50 less or whatever. So whatever, we're still doing better than we were, and even though it's hypocritical for him to get on us for doing the exact same thing he did, and we were just burning time. We weren't doing anything that was going to affect or hurt him or his business. So I don't get that, but that's fine. We overlooked it. We went on. We did our thing, and part of it is we didn't have alcohol, and occasionally people that work for us might want to drink, so we would walk them next door to get a drink, or we would walk and get some for us for when we got off work, things like that. And then sometimes we would party after work, and hang out and do, whatever it is you do when you're 25 years old. And, but then one day I come in and I walk in there, I'm the only one there, and it's just the owner. And now the owner's married, and the wife basically runs the show, and he just basically does whatever she says. And he said, "Well, I've been thinking about it, and we're going to have to let your buddy go. Your buddy's..." And I'm like, "Dude, we came to you to save money so that we could do this. I mean, we did this to save you money. He's saving you money by being here, not to mention the fact that you can replace him, sure, as a bartender. You can replace him as a DJ, but there's nobody else you got around here that even looks like a bouncer or is going to give me any confidence that they're going to do anything to anybody to keep this place safe." And I knew he was always blowhard, and he was going to say this, that, and the other, but I knew at the end of the day, I'd get through to him, it'd be fine. But then he said the words, I knew nothing was going to change. "Well, my wife says he has to go." And when he said that, I'm like, and then I figured it out. We had gotten caught in that back room, but on another day, we came into work, and he was just going crazy over details like he was a Marine sergeant checking out the barracks, and these chairs have to be uniform, and blah, blah, and he was just going crazy. And I didn't appreciate the way he was talking to me, and Jason didn't appreciate the way he was talking to me. So we called him up and we said, we're not going to tolerate this. We're leaving. Come get your keys. And the DJ at the time, they kept a lot of their CDs there, especially one particular DJ. Like 80% of all CDs were his. And Jason said, "I'm not going to leave my buddy's stuff here. I'm going to make sure that it's okay." So he takes the CDs. An hour later, his wife shows up over at my apartment. And we told her that we didn't like the way he was talking to us, and she was like, well, you just come back or whatever. She was foreign. So you can just come back, and not worry about it. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I don't like the way he treated us. And I said, I'll tell you what, we'll come back tomorrow, but we're not coming back today. And we let her take the CDs back. But while we were there, the one thing she said to me that I should have paid attention to is she looked at me and she said, when did you learn how to talk? And what she was really saying is, you didn't ever give me any trouble before, but now that he's around, all of a sudden you're giving me trouble. And that hit me in that moment, because I'm like, she's doing that because she feels like she can control me when he's not around, but if he is around, that's not going to happen. And I realized it was futile then. So I'm like, well, I'm totally against this, but you're going to do what you got to do or whatever, and there's obviously no way I'm going to be able to stop it. So go ahead, I guess. So he turns to me. It's not enough that they want to let my buddy go because I stood up for myself, I guess, for a change or something, or they feel like he's a bad influence or whatever. I would assume that to be a good influence. But then they want me to tell him, so then I have to go tell him. And they didn't have any cause or any reason. They just, so far as I'm concerned, they eliminated the position. Then a few days later, he's complaining because Jason had applied for unemployment. And I'm like, well, you just let him go for no reason. You didn't fire him for cause. He should be getting unemployment. And whatever the crap he said. So that sucked. And luckily for him, it wasn't too much longer where there was a discrepancy over memberships at the club, and we were selling what were called one-day memberships because the law says you have to be a member, but it doesn't say how long. And it was an election season, so the police department and the DA were trying to say that it's illegal to do a one-day membership, and it's not. And they came in, they raided us, they took everybody to jail. But this is the difference in being a manager of a bar like that and being an employee. They took the bartender Rob and the DJ Jeff, and they handcuffed them arm in arm. And they look like a really cute couple walking out of there, I got to say. And they escorted them out, put them in the back of the car. When they took me out, pretty much the cop walked me back around the building in the dark by ourselves, him and me. No backup, no worries, no nothing. He's like, well, I got to put the cuffs on you. And I'm like, I get it. I'm waiting for him to put the cuffs behind my back, put me in the back seat. He puts the cuffs in front, not tight at all. Opens up the front door, lets me sit up beside him. And then we bullshit telling stories to each other about, the different clubs and things. And so you even get special treatment from the police, I guess. Now, we had friends that were police, but it wasn't about special treatment. It was just that they were good guys. But we go through all of this. But one time when we were working, a girl, the whole club used to be a rock and roll bar. So I had a bunch of friends that I knew because that's how I found the place, was going to this bar watching live bands. And this girl came in, and I have to say she was one of the group of maybe 30 people we hung out with there. And I didn't know her well, but she had a baby, and she had like a 6-month-old baby. And she came up to the front door and she said, hey, how you been, blah, blah, blah. And, we caught up a little bit, didn't really know her that well, not a big deal. But she was trying to get diapers and formula for her child. Now, when you work 12, 13 hours a day and you're only off on Sunday, you tend to save money, because you're never spending it. You might order something to eat each day or whatever, but you're not spending it. Stuff wasn't very expensive then. Anyway, so I gave her $40, $60 or something. I said, get your kid whatever he needs. So on that weekend, there's a little hairy dude, ironically named Jay. He was maybe 5'2". His hair was like 5'1". I don't know. He kind of reminded me of an old character I think was on the Flintstones or something, or the Tasmanian Devil. I don't know. Not a very intimidating dude. He's there with a buddy, and I could tell that he's put off because he's like, so I heard you gave my girlfriend $60. I'm like, yep. What'd you do that for? She said she had a baby that needed diapers and food. Was that not right? And he said, yep. And I said, well, there you go. And you could tell he wanted to say something else, but he wasn't quite sure what to do and everything. And it would just seem uneasy to me because I'm like, shit or get off the pot. Either you're pissed or you're not. What are you doing? So I don't know this, but Jason had gone around to the back to get a beer or something, take a break. And when he came back out to come back on duty, he walks out the back door. These two dudes are standing there. And the guy looks at him. This is what Jason told me when he came back in. The guy said, so I guess you're on Jay's side in this, aren't you? And he said, yep. There's only one problem. He had no idea what the guy was talking about. He just said, yeah, because he's on my side. It doesn't matter what it is. And so the guy never said anything. I think he was scared, that I was bigger than both of them. Jason's twice as big as both of them. They're on in our establishment trying to raise some ruckus about some bullshit because how dare you help a girl in need, right? And so we had experience, this and that and other. If there was ever any trouble, he would take care of it, get them outside. I was there if it was necessary. I think one time out of all of existence, I ended up on the ground of that place, and that was the night I was trying to hold somebody from behind so they wouldn't get to him because I was worried that he would hurt them. And so our feet got tangled up, and I just rolled back on my back. No big deal. It wasn't like anybody punched me or anything. But we did have some parties. We had the DJ and lights. Imagine having your own nightclub and throwing a get together for a few friends with all the resources. So we would do stuff like that. Sometimes it was a slow night, sometimes it wasn't. So sometimes there wasn't any need to do it, but we just hung around afterwards, still legal hours, whatever. So there are ways that things happen, and limousine drivers would come and offer to take us to their clubs and party and stuff like that. So. It's weird when you live in an apartment and everybody's going to work, all your neighbors are going to work, and then you get dropped off every morning in a limousine and they stare at you and they don't ever ask you why, but they're like, something's not right there. And everything was right. It's pretty damn good if you ask me. So with all these shared experiences, we became close friends. We trusted each other. It's not like we went to war together or anything, and he was former Navy as well. So, but he knows my wife. My wife loves him. He's a trusted friend. He's just built a little different, I guess you could say. So, when you take all that into consideration, and then you come to today, there's just one thing that bothers me. You see all these videos of the women on the phone, and they're like, no, he's strong. $50,000. Oh, no, he can definitely be there. And then the man's in the background getting all excited. And then he's like, what do we got to do? She's like, honey, $50,000 is all you got to do is 100 men against a gorilla. And they're like, what? And they pause and they're like, no, we've all seen that. I'm just saying I don't like that too much because I'm in a different situation. Because if somebody went to Jason and they said, hey, $50,000, I signed you up. Oh, yeah, what do I got to do? Oh, it's 100 guys versus a gorilla. He'd get his phone out. And he would, what are you doing? I just told you you're going to fight a gorilla. Yeah, I'm calling 99 friends. I don't want that damn phone call, Sue. Don't do that. Later. Whoo, boy.